Well, hello guys. I'm here with a tier list video for 1v1 Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition Nomad. I did make a video, well, let's say I did do a stream on Twitch that took 3 hours to get this tier list completed, so it took its time. And I did originally upload the video to YouTube, and then I thought, there's no way people are going to stick around for 3 hours, so I thought it was probably a good idea to re-record this just a little bit quicker um, than what we done, right? So we went through a criteria and we pretty much identified what makes civs good on Nomad, and I think the first thing we came up with was the civs have got to be good on water and have strong transitions to Castle Age. What makes a civ good can be largely map dependent, and the first one, good on water. Water play is usually quite important. Being able to get the first fires or galleys out is always nice, and then having a good transition into Castle Age. Doesn't seem like Feudal Age is much of a fighting spot apart from on water. Having some nice units they can go for in Castle Age can be a big plus. Second thing, we were looking at early economy bonuses that benefit the water play. So sometimes you have civs that have early eco, but essentially don't get to make a lot of that bonus on Nomad, whereas a lot of other civs do. Third thing was map control potential, and then unique unit availability. So map control potential, largely referring to castle placement. If we have played Nomad, I'm sure we all realise that map control is very important. And generally this is gained by castles, but there's some civs out there that have very good tower potential, and Trush is still something that you can go for in Nomad, so something you have to look out for. And of course, when you go for a castle, it's important to have a good unique unit you can produce out of that castle. I think there's one civ that's a top civ. Persians are the one to stick out. You're never going to make a war elephant in a 1v1 competitive Nomad, or very unlikely. And I would say that's something you could always mark them down on, despite how good they are. And then the fourth thing, complexity. How difficult are the civ to play? There is some civs there that are probably quite successful at the top level with professionals, but are they simple to play? Are they easy to work out? I think that's something else we need to take into consideration. Anyway, I've been doing this tier list because I have been hosting my own tournament over on my Discord, Nomad Wars League. It features every one of the standard Age of Empires 2 DE Nomad start maps. So that's your Nomad, Water Nomad, Land Nomad, African Clearing, Steppe, Nile Delta, and Mountain Pass. Going to be doing tier lists for every one of these. Then going to be doing some draft strategy videos at a later date. So hopefully everyone should link in and should make things a little bit easier. Been hosting quite a bit of tournaments recently. If you are interested in participating, head over to Discord. The link will be in the description. Anyway, shall we get started? I'm going to try and go through this A to Z. It's a little bit mixed up actually, because I think it just came up the order that I uploaded the images. And I think it's quite good to actually set a baseline. So I'm going to try and fill in some top and some bottom, and then fill in the middle afterwards. And I think the very top S tier is very clear. There is 3 of them, and it's Spanish, number 1, Persians, and then Malians is the other. Now, this might be quite hard with the emblems. I'm going to say them out nice and loud so we know what they are. I appreciate that. Somebody did make a comment on Reddit that you should use a unique unit, but what about the people that don't know the unique units? The best thing we can do is obviously just we can just learn all the emblems. That's a clear. That is a clear solution. Anyway, these 3 civs are absolutely amazing on normal Nomad. Spanish, I think, are the best civ you can do. Have very good tech tree availability. If we look towards our criteria, They can be good on water, and they give very strong transitions to Castle Age. Good on water because if you actually play Spanish, you should always notice, especially with the treaty that's on, you should always be a villager ahead. That's how quick the TC takes to get up. Honestly, you drop it super early and somebody else has got it late. There's potential there you could be up 2 villagers, which would be insane if that somebody else did misplay it. Don't really have any early eco bonuses at all, but that extra villager can come into it super nice. Map control potential and unique unit availability. Now, this is the one thing that makes them super, super strong. They can just bypass that feudal age, go straight to castle age, and man, whoever thought men on horses with guns would be a good idea? They can just zoom around the map, roam around, and they can absolutely destroy everything, and that is conquistadors. Not the most easy thing to deal with. Typically, have to go for some monks or some potential camels and be able to chase those guys down, but it can be really difficult having to rely on monks. Are they complex? Not really. They have a really clear game plan. Quite a simple civ to play. Spanish are very, very good on normal Nomad. And second, we've got Malians. Same with Persians. They are 2 civs that are able to get a fishing ship right from the beginning of the dock being up. You just have to have the house up. But they have some, well, Malians have some wood savings, so they're able to get their one out, and Persians just start with extra resources. So the early eco for both of them is super, super smooth. You really struggle to have any idle time with them, to be honest. It's very, 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 very good on the food income. Malians, having the wood, the cheaper wood bonus throughout the game is just cracked. It's really nice, and they have very good flexibility in terms of their the military units they can go for. Have very good knights, have very good camels. Can even go for some good monks, some smush in the castle age to siege monk rush. And yeah, I really rate them in pretty much every age of the game. Feudal age, if you want to go for water, they can do something. Castle age, you can do something. And in Imperial age, you can even get Firmba if the game does go that long. I have Persians rated 3 out of these ones, and largely because I think they just can't do some of these things as well as the other. They don't really have a unique unit they can go for. Malays can go for Jabero. The eco is insane for Persians. I actually think it's the best out of the 3. But can't really go for War Elephants. Don't have Redemption either, so can struggle a little bit if you get smushed, despite having double HP on the TCs. But yeah, I think they're still pretty strong. Can be pretty obnoxious if you're allowed to get to a massive eco with them. These 3 are the clear-cut S-tier civs on Nomad. Some people might disagree in terms of their order, but I think Spanish are just extremely obnoxious to deal with. I think Malians have a little bit more flexibility than Persians, and Persians probably have the best eco. But overall, these 3 are the best, and I don't think a lot of people could disagree with it, if I'm being honest. I don't think a lot of people could disagree. I would love to know if you do. If you do disagree with anything, pop it in the chat, and then we can talk about it at a later stage. Anyway, let's get on to the possibly towards the bottom section. Where's one civ that always sticks out? Huns is a big one. You don't get to start with a dock in Huns because you start with less wood, so you're always late to the fish eco. Watching 1v1 Nomad can be extremely difficult, and that's one civ that really jumps out to me as being bottom D tier. And I want you to keep something like that in mind. It's a civ that's not really able to make good uses of their bonus. So we'll leave Huns here now. We're going to try and start to go through A to Z. So let's start off with Aztecs here. Okay, Aztecs seem to be a little bit of a funny civ for me. It's a little bit of an odd one. You do have the extra carry rate, which is really nice, but they are kind of limited in some things in terms of what they can go for in Castle Age. But I think the eco is strong enough to really see you through. I don't think they're going to be quite as strong as Mayans, and probably a little bit better than Incas. So I feel like B is probably the right spot for them. Looking at Bohemians might be a little bit surprise for some people. A new Civ can be extremely oppressive in the right situation. They have all the mining techs for free, which is absolutely phenomenal, especially as you do typically bypass that feudal age area. I mean, you could also technically go for a trush and defend water at the same time in feudal age if that's what you wanted to go for. But getting to castle age is our main goal with them. When you can go for some monks, you can go for the castle drops. They can be a real pickle to deal with, and on Nomad. And I would not underestimate them. If you haven't picked them yet, get them in there. They can be very good. They've worked at top level. I've played them a lot. I am very confident they are an ACIV. Berbers, I think they're kind of in between A and B. I would say they are still A, but probably going to be towards the lower end of A. Don't really have any eco bonuses, so to speak, but the faster moving ships, faster moving villagers are nice at certain points, especially in Feudal Age if you want to go for some water aggression with the ships. Don't really have to take loom in the early game either because the villagers do walk so fast. So if you have the food income, it's super nice. It's also very good for those long lures, which you're more likely to have on Nomad too. Of course, when you do get to Castle Age, you can have the Night Floods, you can have some camels to defend if you are on the back foot, and you also get camel archers out of your castle, which can be a super strong, very nice unit. I'm a big fan of Berbers on Nomad 2. Britons. Britons, I think, are categorically C. I don't. It's going to be a hard one to place them where they are in C. Um, I'm not a fan of the boomy approach on Nomads. I don't really get to make full use of their TCs, but I do appreciate you could take some map control with the TCs and not really have to make use of it. But the thing about Nomad is, for Archer civs, and this is going to be a recurring theme, there's not really a guarantee that you're going to be right next to the opponent's TC. And it's good to have some civs that have a little bit more of a cav play that can able to go for the knights that are able to go right across the map. Most civs can go expos with decent upgrades in Castle Age. Not that would be entirely optimal, or somebody can go for Siege and Monks. I think it's better to have a civ that's geared towards cav, and Brits certainly not. Don't really get to make use of their sheeps either. You should be pretty much always scouting with your sheeps in the early age, so you don't get an eco bonus really at all unless you decide to keep them in, which is probably not the best. You're better going for hunt. Anyways, I feel like C is a good spot for them, but we'll see where they kind of we'll see where they kind of end up in this one. Next one's Bulgarians. No eco bonuses, so to speak, at all. Not really a fan of them on Nomad whatsoever. They do get creposts, but is it enough to really make them a viable civ? They might be in between C and D, I feel. How bad they are, I'm not fully sure as of yet, but yeah, having no eco bonus whatsoever is really, really rough. At least Britons could go for one if they wanted to. Bulgarians can't really, and you fall behind quite a bit. Not having any eco, and I don't know. It seems like their gameplay for Nomad is just really, really underwhelming. I'm not saying the D tier civs are bad. I'm just saying you think of the tiers almost like a preference. Like I'd rather have S over A, I'd rather have A over B, and that's the way it should just go. And you'd rather have C over D. And then I believe that's a good tier list at the end of the day. But we'll see if you guys agree with that one. Okay, Burgundians. Let's really try and get going in this one. Burgundians I'd be putting in B. The big one for me in this one is the complexity. Seem like a really good civ in the right hands, but you don't really want to go for an early lumber camp on Nomad, so you're not really going to want to make too much of an investment there to get the early double bit axe. So I think a lot of people can't really work out the timings. I have seen it used at a pro level pretty well. Project Belgium is a really big fan. Prince of Nomad, Burgundians on this map. So I think they're in B, but I think they have potential to be a little bit higher. Cav doesn't get bloodlines, of course. Castilla is out of the castle, can be really nice. You also get gill nets for the water economy, potentially in Feudal Age. I think there's potential here, but just a little bit too complex. Burmese, I think they're going to be high C. Burmese, I think low key, a little bit underrated is the right word. They do get the wood upgrades for free. Now that's very very good considering on Nomad the 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 wood collection is a massive what's the word choke point. I'm not too sure, but it can be difficult because you really need that wood income to one spam buildings you need in feudal age, and then probably spam some water military as well. So it's really nice to have that instant wood upgrade once you get into the feudal, especially if you're going for the water play. But it's not necessarily it's not massive. It's not massive because the other player could potentially go in for feudal age and going for water anyway. And you just get it a little bit earlier, which doesn't give you too much of an advantage then, does it? But it is free, so it does save you resources, 100 food and 50 gold. Sorry, 50 gold. 100 food, 50 wood. That's per bit axe, right? Why did I just quote fletching? I have no idea. But they also have iron buys, which can be really nice as you go. Still mobile, a lot of damage potential, and their unique unit there. So I think high C is probably where it can end up, and I think that's about fair. Now, Byzantines. I think Byzantines, I'm not too sure if they're A tier, but for me, they're not. Obviously, the fires are super good. I think I'm going to leave them in B, but they don't really have crazy eco bonuses, generally geared towards archer play, no bloodlines on the knights, can get cataphracts out of the castles. The castles are obnoxious. They do have extra HP, 6,600, whatever it is. It's absolutely insane. So if you do drop a castle in somebody's face, good luck getting that one down. Even if you do, even if you are behind to Imperial Age, it's going to take about 4 extra shots before they're going to be at similar HP of their own castle. So I rate Byzantines pretty high. I don't know if they're A tier, but I'm sure some people do feel with the fires, but don't have a real eco bonus. And I think that's a fair one. I think they'll probably be staying towards high B. Next one would be Celts. I'm going to put them in between Burmese and Britons. Now, they do have an eco bonus. Like we said, wood is very, very important. They're always going to chop faster as long as you get the upgrades. The issue with Celts is they don't have good military options for Nomad. Very awkward, slow transitions, knights are shit. Ward Raider's not going to really be an option in Castle Age, but could raid later on, but not something you typically want to be going for. But there is some raiding potential there, I will admit. I mean, what are they geared towards? They are geared towards siege pushes, and if you can get to it and you're close to your opponent, yeah, yes, it could work. But the transitions are very slow. Even getting a good siege push going can take its time. Yeah, I'm not too convinced with Celts being a high one, which some people I know in 1v1 Nomad in some pro games or even some show matches, they end up getting picked towards the end of some drafts, but I think there's other better civs. I think it's like a classic pick that people go for. And they see the wood bonus and think, yeah, that can work. When in reality, it's not too good. Now, Chinese, next one. I think some people would be go automatic D because they don't start with any food. But this is a civ that certainly comes into the complexity. They don't start with the food, but you have the extra villagers, and I've seen it work well. I've seen Chinese work well at a very high level with, and the main concern is you have to learn on foot. You have to land on food to get that TC running instantly. You have to land on food, and if you don't, you can be kind of screwed. But they're still Chinese. Tech tree's really good. You get everything cheaper as you go through the ages. They have lots of flexibility. They can go for knights. They can go for camels. If you get castles up, they also have very good towers. They can get the Chukuna. They're not D tier. They are most definitely C tier. They can work. They can work. Cubans. Cubans for me are D tier. Somebody did make an argument that they are B tier. Maybe C tier they could be. The main issue for me for Cubans, I think I'd still rather have the other civs. You do get Kipchaks out of the castle, which is nice, but the main issue for me is you don't really get to make use of that second TC. Because you're going to be docked anyway, and your opponent's going to be docked. So it's almost like having a second TC working. And then that investment to get the second TC is a bit insane, right? 275 wood and the stone. Plus, you're also taking into account all that idle time of the villagers, which you're forcing it up with. It does take a lot longer than a normal TC, so there's time invested there. And then what else do you get? You get the military buildings for a little bit cheaper. I suppose it's nice if you want to make that military approach from the transition to feudalised to castlage, but I just don't see a whole lot. I think I'd rather have the civs in front. I think the civs in front have more bonuses geared towards Nomad, so that's why they're D for me. That's why they're going to stay in D. Now, Ethiopians, I think, are low C. Low C. Similar problems to other archer civs. Archers are a little bit of a risk, but Ethiopians probably have one of the worst stables in the game, so they're probably going to be low C. They do get extra food and gold upon the age up time, so that's going to be really nice actually if you want to go for some water engagements. I mean, really nice if you just want to get bit axe, and then if you want to get an extra couple of fires out, that can be really nice for the water, but apart from that, not a big lover of them in 1v1 Nomad even how obnoxious their expos are. Okay, Franks. Franks a little bit underrated for me. I'm thinking high C, probably ahead of Britons. Franks. What are Franks geared towards? We all know they love their night play, right? Don't really get to make use of their early eco for berries, but let's say you get pushed off of water in Feudal Age and you FC with Franks and you lose all your water. You just have that game plan. You only make 5 or 6 fishing ships and you're just going to transition to land, which is a fair strategy. That is a fair strategy. Franks can be in a real good spot if you have heavy plough farms getting dropped in Castle Age now to spam your knights, which no other civ gets that. So I think it's actually a low-key very good bonus if you just FC with Franks, make minimal investment on water, don't even fight for it, and then transition onto the land, and then maybe even make a small investment in the hope of the opponent will over-invest on the other side, and you just come in and slap with some knights. And Frank knights are still Frank knights at the end of the day. The other thing they have going for them is the castles, which are cheaper, so very easy to drop them around the map, go YOLO with them. I think underrated for sure. I think some people would be a bit mad if they got Franks and Nomad, but not for me. I still think they're a very good civ. Goths. I think Goths are probably high D. I think I'd still rather have these civs in C. Maybe, I don't know if I'd rather have Ethiopians, but I think they're going to be high D. It's nice and easy to kill the boars when you're bringing them in the Dark Age. You don't have to go for the silly TC kills, which is nice. Also easy to lame. Yeah, I don't think they're the worst, but again, they kind of lack very strong military. Even though Huskarls can be very good from the castle, now I'm like swithering. Do I want to go for C or D? I feel like they're bottom of D, but maybe towards the top. I feel like I'd still rather have the civs in C, and that's what I'm gonna do the tier list by, and hopefully we have a nice equal distribution towards the end. Anyway, Incas. Incas, the other Meso civ that everyone kind of forgets about. Probably around middle of the pack in C. Do get some nice bonuses. Houses are double population, so you need to create less. It's almost like getting another fishing ship out in Dark Age, which is nice, but the problem with Incas is they're a little bit of a jack of all trades and can't do too much exceptionally. Although they do get cheaper towers, cheaper castles, which can be nice. Kameyaks from the castle can also be nice considering how much of the meta is geared towards cavalry, right? And Kameyaks take no time to produce at all, so they can be nice to defend. I think they have some nice flexibility, but I think they lack a true power option. They don't have anything that jumps out to me and says, oh, they're going to be really strong here. Probably going to end up high C though, but I don't think they're as good as Aztecs, and are definitely not as good as Mayans either. Okay, Indians. Indians probably going to end up in this war half of B. I mean, they don't really have any equal bonuses in the early game, but you do have cheaper villagers, and that really does stack well as the game goes along. You do have the dock villager taking that shorefish quicker in the early stages, so that's nice on that one. But they have really nice boom potential, can open camels as well. And they have some nice unit compositions as the game goes on. You only have elephant archers coming out the castle, of course. So not too nice on that one, but I think they'll end up in Lobby. I think I'd still rather have them over these civs here, despite being limited to camels. But you can really get a boom working with them, and you can have some other units as you go along into the game. They have nice trash, have CA, not the most common thing in 1v1 Nomad, but they have some potential. They have some potential, but I think they're going to end up in low B. Italians. I think Italians. Excuse me. That's a lot of talking. Very, very, very fast for 25 minutes. I was hoping for 30 minutes, but we'll try and get this through this as quick as we can. Italians, very strong on water, get cheaper upgrades through the ages of Feudal Age, Castle Age, Imperial Age, all discounted, which is very nice for those transitions. Also have Genovese Expo out of the castles, can work very well against these three top civs and other civs that are in the top tier. Maybe struggle a little bit more with civs actually towards the bottom, which is quite funny, but I really rate Italians cheaper fishing ships as well. Really, really solid to get going. I would say they're just outside the top four. We'll kind of see how this A tier develops. There's probably a few civs that are A plus, and I would say Italians are one of them. Japanese, I think, are borderline A and B. Have the fishing ships that are pretty obnoxious actually. Double HP, extra pierce armor can be very difficult to get rid of. Do get very good potential in towers in late game. Also have the cheaper economy buildings which you can dot around. I think they're kind of borderline A, B. Now I think some people would be pretty mad that I'm not putting them in A, or if I don't put them in B, but I think they belong high B. I did originally have them in low A, but I think they're more of a high B civ. I really do. And I think I'm quite happy putting them there, but I might change it later on. You know, the towers and I'm a big fan of towers, and once the towers get going in the later game, they can be lovely. Okay, Khmer. Khmer have some nice bonuses. Don't have to make the buildings on up for the ages. Also, the resources can be quite spread out on Nomad, so you can make use of jumping into the houses on any villagers that are exposed and isolated. So I kind of like them high C. The farming eco, if it does get rolling in Castle Age, is really nice. Not like that's going to be much of a factor in the early stages of the game, much like these other civs. They will be quite good. We have some good farming civs down here. You'll see at the end of the game, but farms are just not something that's particularly optimal to be going for on Nomad. It's something you do have to drop eventually, but you might be dead by that point, so it can be a difficult one there. Koreans, probably going to pop them in between Berbers and Bohemians. I mean, we've all played Koreans in 1v1 Nomads, or just in 1v1 in general, and we know how ridiculous war wagons can get cheaper discounts on wood. They also get the archer defense upgrades for free, so the war wagons are even more oppressive. They have crazy pierce armor, 5 pierce armor in Castle Age, so they can just dive under TCs, and they can just pick off villagers 1v1. Can be difficult to deal with, probably need some monks. And they also have the Trush potential. Oh god, if you get Watchtower, that's going to go to Guard Tower in Castle Age. And they also have the extra line of sight. And the villagers at the start of the game, so that's really nice. You can, if you want to commit a villager with Koreans early, it's probably not the worst idea. And more often than not, that's something that has to get done quite a lot in early Nomad. One kind of thing to highlight is they don't get demos, so that could be really important in the early engagements on the fires. You know, the edge of the map on Nomad can be, it can be quite skinny in some areas. You can usually have a big kind of lake on one side. I don't know if that's the right word, but a lot of the map can be very skinny, and demos can come in very clutch. And if you don't have demos, it can be quite hard to defend your fires in comparison to Civ that does. Okay, next A plus Civ is Lithuanians. They start with extra food, and that's super important here because it pretty much means you can streamline everything towards wood in the early game and get those ships out and barely have any idle time whatsoever. I think they're the easiest Civ to play on Nomad. I really do because of it, or one of them. But I just don't see the eco being as good as I don't think their options are as good as the S tier civs to be considered S tier. Now, I'm sure some people would be upset about that, but I just don't. I don't think it's as good as these other ones. and that's why they're in A tier, and that's why they're not S. I think they're simpler. If you can get to the knights and pick up the relics as well, it is super good. They obviously have the very good trash as the game goes on, but I just don't think they're as good as the top three here. I don't think they're as good. But if you do get the relics, if you get a couple of relics, you get to 10 plus 4 knights, 10 plus 5 knights, in Castle Age, it's the same on any map, that can be extremely difficult to deal with. Anyway, Magyars. I think Magyars are definitely D. Don't have any equal bonuses, but if you get the plus 2 knights out, I mean, that can do some damage, right? I don't know where they are in D. I probably have them over Magyars. Sorry, I probably have Mag over Cubans. It's quite ironic. We have quite a few Nomad civs here. But I probably have Goths over them now that I'm really thinking about it. Again, no equal bonuses really does hurt. A lot of these civs all have equal bonuses, give you something. The early game's very important, sets you up well, and you're always playing catch up. So if you do lose water, which is quite likely, against playing against an equal civ, unless you have some very good tight builds, then you're going to be in a sticky spot. You will be in a sticky spot, and you're going to have to kind of transition to land eco. You also want to be getting knights out. That's going to really take down your chances of getting knights out. So yeah, I think they're D. I'm not necessarily saying the civs in D are bad. I just say the ones above them are better. Malay are going to be high Bs. Again, this is one of these civs that kind of comes in complexity. The transitions can be a little bit weird because you advance so quick for the ages. But in the right hands, I think they're high A. But the extra line of sight in the docks is really nice. They are a very good transitioning onto war because you do have those quick up times, so you can really take control there. If you have a good build, a good game plan, I did see I Love Baskets in an old tournament of mine. I think he done like an 18 pop Malay build, which is really aggressive because it's hard to get the transition right because you have to have things on wood and gold, right? You need to be able to make the docks produce. I think it was a double dock 18 pop, which is almost going like 15 pop on another civ. That's how quick it is. It was very good, but you know, not everyone can do that. Not everybody has the time to practice builds, look at them. I think they're very strong, but I think high B is where they belong, and it's mainly down to how complex they are and not being able to make full uses of them. Mayans are going to be in low A. I'm actually going to put them ahead of Berbers. Mayans are going to be high A because I mean, it's almost like the Civ is so good for so many maps. You know, you get the extra villager here on Nomad, which is super nice. The walls actually have extra HP. They have the longer lasting resources. They also get plumes out of a castle, which can be really nice. And then you have the raiding potential with eagles too. It seems like mines can be a really strong pick in Nomad. I don't know if they're as strong as these here, but I don't think there's big gaps between these civs. So I think Italians and lifts are clear A plus, and it starts to get a little bit more. A lot of these civs are going to be very, very strong afterwards in the A tier. All A tier civs are going to be very good. And the next A plus civ is going to be Mongols. Mongols can be very, very strong. The hunt bonus is really nice, so they can have really quick transitions to feudal age and castle age. Low key, actually a very good water civ in the feudal age armies don't differ a lot, right? So Mongols can get to feudal age, get fires out, very quick transition, and then you can always pull in another boar, get to castle age all right. And if you want to go FC, it's pretty easy to do that. You get knights, you get camels, you also get Mangadai, not the strongest thing in castle age, but low-key Mongols always picked quite often at a high level, and a very strong civ. I say they're A plus. A plus. Next one is Poles. Poles is a real difficult one for me to place. I know Hera made a video recently. He had them in A. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I think they're round about mid C. You do get to collect the half gold when you're collecting stone, which is nice. It is nice, don't get me wrong. So I think there's some potential there. The main issue for me is that you don't really get to make full use of the full barks. Again, it's another farming civ. And it seems like If you have to drop the full works out in big bits of space and then drop the farms around it, you're kind of getting away from the safety of the TC, which is always guaranteed the Nomad, where you can kind of go around the TC. That's why you always drop the TC on the wood line. So I don't think the map itself, normal Nomad, is geared, engineered, whatever you want to say, towards poles. But I think they have potential. But I think I still rather have the civs in B over C. And yes, I mean you could maybe cut straws and say they could go 2 or 3 up, but I think I'd rather have the B civs over poles. And I think it's fair in the meantime, but I would be happy to be proven wrong. Portuguese, they are going to be up here in A. Well, towards the lower end of A, don't really have an eco bonus, so to speak, but get cheaper gold units. Their dock units also have extra HP, and then they get to organ guns, which can outrange TCs. You know what, I'm going to put them above Berbers. Portuguese can be very difficult to deal with, have a lot of success at the top level. No eco bonus puts them down towards the lower age of A, but they can be super strong. Saracens. Saracens is a difficult one, I think, to deal with as well. The tech tree is very good. You have so much flexibility. You can go for archers, you can go for camels. So in the right situation, you can choose what to do. If you go Galleys, Galleys isn't particularly meta in 1v1 Nomad, but you could open them with triple dock. They have faster firing Galleys, can be nice. The market's not to be underrated. I think they're low B. I don't think they go into C. I think I'd still rather have Saracens over all these guys, and I think that's a totally fair placement for them. Slavs, I think it's a little bit of a rough one, and I probably put them below Cubans. Again, not saying they're terrible, they just can't make full use of their bonuses versus some other civs. Again, another farming civ. But their farms takes a lot longer to kick in than say Poles, where you get like the instant drop off for the full works. I'd rather have heavy plough farms. Yeah, I think they're just very underwhelming. Can't really do too much here. I think it's fair to put them in D. I wouldn't be happy if I got them on a random on Nomad. If I'm being honest, I'm not saying they're necessarily bad. I just think there's a lot of other civs that do much better. Sicilians, I would be having them in mid B. Yes, mid B. Mid B ahead of Aztecs. I think I probably would. The eco can be a little bit obnoxious, and the castles really difficult to deal with. The one major downside of them is donjons, which in Feudal Age, if you do get tower rushed or feel some pressure, not the most ideal thing up to put up. They're quite expensive, but getting the TCs up super fast is good for the eco. You also have a pretty good dock. Once the farms do get going, if you are going to get them down in Castle Age and beyond, it is nice. But having the main thing is having the castles and sergeants. Castles, super. Oh, they're crazy. I don't know what the best adjective to use is, but they go up so fast, in your face, so easy to get map control with Sicilians, and then sergeants are a nice little raiding unit actually. Have a lot of pierce armor, so can dive under TCs. And then even the sergeants can end up making dungeons, which are nice in the later game. I think they have some potential here. And their right hands maybe a little bit complex in terms of when you go for the farms and whatnot. But yeah, I think they have some potential. Tatars for me gonna be high D. Similar kind of thing to Britons. Can't really make full use of their sheeps. But I'm going to have Britons over Tatars and C to D because Brits have the better TCs. I think they're cheaper, so a little bit easier there, despite having the sheeps coming out from Tatars and theirs. It's just a map that's not really geared towards CA. CA usually takes some eco to get going in Castle Age. Not the quickest transition by any means. Yeah, I'm not too keen. Oh, and I just remembered about Cubans. Cubans, no stone walls either. Stone walls are very underrated in the Nomad, and that's another thing. It's really quite easy to wall off some choke points on Nomad. Quite often not, you're only invested in pretty much 20 walls or something, so very easy to get the stone walls up in some areas and just create choke points. And then that's where you put your castles, which can always be super good. Tutans, for me, again, another farming civ, a little bit of a strange one. I probably put them down here in low C, kind of similar to Franks, but they can, if you do FC, and you make a transition onto land, the farms are super cheap. So that is very nice in getting them down. But again, the camp's a little bit slow. They do have the trush potential though, don't they? I think I've been a little bit harsh. Maybe similar to Poles. I think very similar to Poles in that vein. Poles can go for a trush as well. Good farming civ. I think Teutons are in a very similar boat, and it's quite. It almost feels like the emblems are the exact same. It looks silly, doesn't it? Looks very, very similar. Anyway, Turks. Turks were putting up into B. If anyone's ever played against Turks, they know how ridiculous they can be if they're allowed to get the Janissaries. Don't have a crazy eco bonus, but do get gold mining. But Janis, gunpowder is that strong, guys. Gunpowder is that strong, and that's why Janis and Turks are going to be up there. They can struggle a little bit later on the game. Only get spearmen, only get skirmishers, but by that point, it's probably going to be over. Not the biggest deal. So they're going to be in mid B. I think it's a very fair spot for it. If I'm looking at this, I'm actually very happy with the distribution. Vietnamese going to be in the mid B2. I think I'm just going to rank them ahead. I think I'm going to put Sicilians here actually, and have Aztecs towards the middle because of the eco. Vietnamese going to be high Bs, so you get to find out what the TC is. The eco upgrades only cost food. Quite often, not your floating food on Nomad, especially if you have one water, but more often not you're going to be going for archers anyway, Vietnamese. But the stable's not too bad. You do get elephants as well, can be something interesting, but Rattans can be very hard to deal with. I'm going to have them in high B. I love the TC knowing where it is, and I think that's very, very strong. Vikings, I'm going to upset some people here. I think they're mid-C. Now, the eco is very, very good, but only get galleys. I know the dog's cheaper, I know the galleys are cheaper, but for me, Vikings are very underwhelming. Don't have very good cavalry, infantry is not something you really want to be going for on Nomad, and also the archers did lose Thumb 2. Sorry, I'm just getting confused because I'm looking at this and how did this happen? That's not meant to be like that. Anyways, that was the last civ. Vikings in there. I think they're incredibly underwhelming, so I'm happy with them there. If you disagree, I would love to hear. That is the tier list for Nomad 1v1. Going to be back with more, like I said, doing it because I'm hosting a tournament, Nomad Wars League, featuring all of the Age of Empires 2 DE maps. Hope you enjoyed this. We'd like to see the next one. Next one will be African Clearing. Did get this down from 3 hours to 42 minutes. Pretty happy with that. Take care. If you haven't already, make sure you give a like and subscribe in there. Thank you.